Hi, I'm Malcolm Stern, and in conjunction with my friends John and Sandra Wilson from Online Events, we're creating a series of podcasts called Slay Your Dragons with Compassion. My book of the same name was conceived and inspired by the suicide of my daughter Melissa and the journey that took me on and the internal resources that I found. All of my guests will have a story to tell around overcoming and ultimately thriving through adversity. Special thanks to the band Stairway, Jim McCarty and Louis Chinamo, for the use of theme music from their album Medicine Dance, and my engineer Owen Santiago. I hope you enjoy this series, and thanks for listening. So, welcome to Slay Your Dragons with Compassion, my podcast done in conjunction with Online Events, where I interview a range of people, some well-known, some not so well-known, but all of whom have a story to tell. And today's guest is no different to that. She has a wonderful story to tell. I've known her quite a few years, and I've been really impressed with how she's come through some really difficult times. So, Karen, welcome to you.
Thanks, Malcolm. Nice to see you, I would say.
Yeah, good. Well, it's good to say that.
Yeah, it is
And
good.
yeah, so and what we're looking at is that you were, if I were to put it in quite um, obvious terms, you were drunk for 40 years. I mean, you used alcohol for 40 years as a way.
I wouldn't say I was drunk for 40 years, Malcolm.
Mhm. Drinking.
But I have been drinking. I have a my terms are that I have a relationship with drinking for 40 years, since the age of about 16, I would think.
Yeah.
Um, what makes it a little bit more than 40 years, actually, but it hasn't been. I would be what you would have called back in the day a functional alcoholic. I don't like the term alcoholic, so I'm not going to particularly use that label. I'm not a great fan of labels anyway.
Me neither. So we don't have to say that. But I think what's interesting is that very often what we use is certain addictions, and we all have addictions, certain addictions to cover up pain and difficulty. And you were covering up something very major. As a young woman, you were very beautiful. You're still a very attractive woman now, actually, but you were a very beautiful young woman, and men would hit on you all the time from
Yep,
what I
that's
can
that's
gather.
fair to say. That is
And
fair to say, and it is actually apposite to why I pretty much started drinking.
yeah, so you started drinking because actually it was the only way in which you could actually do what you were expected to do and to just numb yourself enough or to dissociate yourself enough that you would be able to function.
It was, and also I think, like very, very many people, particularly women, and I've been working particularly with women over the years. That I suffered from social anxiety. Well, we didn't have those labels then, and I don't necessarily attribute myself to that label, but I do know that everyone said I was very shy and timid, and in fact, in social situations, it was practically impossible for me to be out in social. Come to that later, but be out in social situations without having a drink, because it's what I learned numbed me enough to be a different version of myself, or at least the version I thought that other people wanted to see.
Yeah,
Because
that's it. Yes.
because in fact, I didn't actually have a great sense of self-esteem, even though, as you say, I was, even if I do say so myself, very attractive. I had no inkling of that. All I knew was that blokes would hit on me. I didn't know how to handle it. And I was quite bemused by it, actually. I had no mentors either to sort of help me along and say, give me some steering as to how to manage it. I think all my nan would say was, keep your hand on your halfpenny, girl. And I didn't even know what she was talking about, but
Yes.
I don't think it would have helped in the first place.
No, I don't think it would. And actually, what you were doing is you were going down the wrong road for you as well, which you've discovered, and you've discovered it at a late stage. And what interests me in your story is that actually there's a real clarity that you are actually, and I don't know what we describe it as you say, but you're actually a gay woman.
Yeah, and again, interestingly, as you say, this is it's quite painful for me to talk about, in fact, because I feel quite emotional now. To wait till I'm 60 and not be who I am has been very, very painful. And I know I've drunk on that. It's and to have men hit on me. In fact, it didn't help that I was sexually abused when I was 18 before I'd even become sexually active. So my only relationship, my maybe that, I don't know. No, I have to say, I have to be true to myself here. When I was 11 years old, I wanted to be a little boy.
Ah,
And in fact, I cut my head, I had a tantrum, I had to have my hair cut off. I had long hair, I had it all cut really short. And the best accolade anyone could give me would be to say, "Hello, Sonny, what can I do for you?" And I feel great. I dressed as a boy. Uh, I um, I was really cross that I couldn't go to football matches with my dad where my brother could. I had to do the bloody washing up and cook the dinners, which I thought was really unfair. There was a lot of stuff that internally I was rebelling against, but I had no language for.
yeah,
It was the early 70s, and I know there was a huge movement, but I came from a very strict upbringing. My dad was a policeman, and my family were very, if you pardon the expression, very straight. In fact, found out since that they're not. But you know, I was supposed to be the good girl. I tried to be the good girl, but internally there was something rebelling. And when you have something that is not authentic to your own heart, then that pain is quite extraordinary if there's nowhere that you have an outlet for it. And so at the age of, I did the same as most teenagers did. I experimented with alcohol. I didn't like it at first. I hated it. It was awful. But that was the era of Baby Sham, if you remember Malcolm. And
okay.
Baby Sham, brandy and Baby Sham, and wines were Black Tower and Pied d'Or and Milch and all that rubbish. And we weren't a drinking family at home, except my dad would drink whiskey by the bottle pretty much every day because he had such a hard job. My mum didn't drink, but at parties, no limits. It was quite ordinary to drink and smoke and drink and smoke. But it wasn't the environment it is today, which has changed. The culture has changed around drinking
Yeah,
today. And I have changed along with it. So I would say that along with many, many people, alcohol became a habit for me to manage my social anxiety and to manage and to keep pushed, repressed, and pushed down who I actually am and feel inside.
and what I've noticed is as you've allowed yourself to be who you are, there's a fresh confidence in you, there's a power in you, you speak with more authority. And so there's something about it doesn't matter when, I mean, of course it's better if we do it young and we have all that time to explore it, but you've got the wisdom of the years now to go forwards. And I think what made the shift is that you got quite ill. And
Yeah.
and often that's what happens. It's something happens that actually forces us to rethink our trajectory. So tell us a little bit about getting ill and how long ago was that?
Well, the thing is, alcohol is a habit. It's a bit like Alan Carr talks about the pitcher plant analogy, where you've got this plant and the fly comes along and smells this lovely aroma and thinks, well, the nasty stuff's the bottom, but I'll just get to the top. And you start just having a little nibble at the top, and then eventually, as we know, he ignores the fact that there are lots of flies dead at the bottom, and eventually gets sucked down, of course. And alcohol is a bit like that. Well, it's a lot like that. When you first start drinking as a youngster, this is my story, obviously. Some people go straight for it. I wouldn't drink at home. I was drinking socially to help myself. Then I went to college, did hit it big time at college because of the environment. And of course, it was like I didn't know what it was to be gay. I mean, I suppose that was my opportunity, but I didn't take it then. I can't describe to you how incredibly shy I was. I was terrified of the world. So I used to go straight to the student union bar and get my cider and black and neck it, and then I would feel okay. Uh, and then I'd be a version of myself that I felt was palatable to other people. And it worked for me for a while. So I started to demonize alcohol, but I've reframed that because for a while it was helpful. It was helpful for me. But as you asked about my illness, I've had three children. So I've been married three times, which of course, and I prefer to call myself queer actually. I'm a bit of a queer
Whatever you
stalker.
like. Yes, yes.
Yes, I think queer fits me more than gay, and I don't identify with lesbian. I don't like labels, but I was actually on a writing workshop a couple of days ago, and I said I'm queer. I know who I am pretty much now, have with the clarity of being sober, but I don't think anybody else does. And I've been getting ill on and off over the past 10 years with various ailments like IBS. I think maybe some people can identify with that. Insomnia, because when you drink a lot as a habit, and I was drinking probably 2 bottles of wine a day, maybe more if I went out with friends. And sometimes I'd add spirits into. I didn't often have spirits, gin and vodka maybe, but I wasn't a spirit drinker. I wasn't a beer drinker. But if you add in all the extras, that's quite a lot of alcohol on a daily basis. So I started to get I would pick up any bug going. And this year, I went into, I was going for a routine knee replacement operation. By the way, I would say it's not routine, but I ended up having my lung, but I had emphysema of what do you call it? Pulmonary embolism. That's it. I had a pulmonary embolism, fortunately, while I was still in hospital, which meant I couldn't get out of bed at all for 3 weeks. Then I was on blood thinners and I had a blood clot, and it basically held me back from rehabilitating my knee. Then when I came out of hospital, I picked up COVID again, or whooping cough. I don't really know. And I still have lung problems now. I've been suffering from a cough for about 6 months, and I've been to various doctors, and they still can't quite pin down the problem. Um, but when you drink that long, and as I say, when I was pregnant, I wasn't drinking, but that was a sort of what do you call it, hanging by my fingernails job. As soon as I was not breastfeeding, I was drinking. My kids suffered. I know they suffered, and I have endless shame around that. And of course, I drank on that shame. So it's a vicious circle. It's very, very difficult to get out of that vicious circle. But when I was ill, and I was ill in bed, literally, I couldn't sleep. I was sweating, cough, I couldn't breathe. And obviously, at that point, I thought adding alcohol to the mix here is just bloody stupid. Also, I had become sick and tired of being sick and tired, to give you an AA analogy. Uh, I had been off the booze while I was in hospital, obviously, so I'd cleaned my body of those toxins. I was on a lot of medication, including morphine, which as an addict is, I'm sorry to say, but I liked it. I was fortunate enough to watch that program, Dope Sick, about OxyContin, which is what they put me on. And I got myself off that fairly quickly. So then at some point, I was medication and alcohol free. And I thought, and obviously I can't swear now, but I was thought, F that, I'm going to stay alcohol free. I have absolutely had enough of that. I'm still not well, but I'm getting more clarity in my mind, and I have a more, as you pointed out, Malcolm, a sense of self than I have ever had in my life.
I think that's the thing. And I know with AA, they talk about having to go all the way to the bottom before you come out. And you obviously had lots of dips towards the bottom, but you
Yeah.
finally bottomed out. But I think what's been sitting there behind you, and again, in the time I've known you, it's been something that's sort of ticked away inside you, is the fact that actually you are not drawn to men at a sexual level. You're drawn to women. And there was all the shame that went along with that when you were growing up because it was a different environment then. Your dad probably wouldn't have been particularly welcoming of you as a
No,
queer woman.
no,
Uh,
not no.
but actually now it feels like you're finding yourself. And often we find ourselves later on in life when we've got enough wisdom, enough experience. And so where do you go from here? What's your journey now? Because actually it feels like there's a whole world that's open to you, the whole world of possibilities.
Yeah, good question. Um, I still suffer from social anxiety, but I've also matured a lot. I know what it's like now to go out and not drink. And I believe that you have to experiment with these. You have to build emotional muscle or build spiritual muscle. And the only way to do it is to do it. So there have been a number of firsts, like going to a restaurant. I always had the idea that you could, now this will sound daft to people who don't drink, but I always had this idea that you have to pair wine and the food, and that the food is enhanced by the wine. So it's absolutely ingrained in me. I'm not a wine snob. I don't really know much about wine. I only know about, in fact, that's the funny thing. I did like good wine, but when you're at the end of your drinking, you buy shit wine. I was very sorry about that.
Fine, fine, yeah.
You buy poor quality wine. I mean, I was even at one point looking at the €1 litre in the market. Well, I live in France, in the market, in a plastic bottle that he poured out of the back of his good God knows what it was, but I didn't buy it. You can buy wine cheap enough here in boxes. So in the end, it was boxes of wine for €8, 5 litre boxes. It wasn't bad wine. It wasn't fantastic wine. So, you know, the idea of drinking wine because of the taste, for example, is rubbish, frankly. So when I went to the restaurant and had um, a meal without, it was my birthday actually, my first birthday without alcohol, which was quite a milestone. I ordered what their version of a pina colada. It was actually pineapple juice, but I had a meal and it was fine. It was more than fine. It was great. My husband was drinking a beer, and he had one beer, but I didn't feel the need. And since then, I have found that food actually tastes better without alcohol because I actually taste it. I used to reach for the wine list before I got the menu. I didn't really care about what was on the menu. And often I didn't eat my food. I would just care about which cocktail I was going to have first, which wine, and then perhaps maybe I could squeeze in some more wine afterwards if I drank it fast enough. Now that sounds terrible, and
It, it sounds like what it is, but what I'm interested in is the part of you that has been suppressed forever, which is the which is actually who you are, and you found it when you were young because you wanted to dress up as a boy because you were actually interested in girls, but you had no way of being able to express that. And I'm
mm,
wondering how you're able to express that. Now you've talked about your husband. I'm wondering how he feels about you being a queer woman.
really struggling with that, obviously. In fact, his words to me recently were, "Why now?" I said, it made me laugh because I thought, why? It actually puzzled me because I thought, why now? It's been forever. You know,
Exactly,
this isn't
exactly.
this isn't happening now. And I told him 5 years ago anyway, that if I was at the very least bisexual, and that's only because I've been married 3 times, and it just seems daft to say that I'm, gay. But since then, I've been doing a lot of reading. I found a book called Married Women Who Love Women, which is written by a woman called Karen, funny enough. Uh, Written probably about 30 years ago, I think. So things were a bit different then. Interestingly, I don't know if my girls are going to see this, they may do, but, excuse the pun again, going to come out at some point anyway. Um, I had an affair with a woman when I was about 35. It was a very explosive, amazing affair, and I regret not having the courage to follow through with that because I had three small children at the time, and I couldn't handle the um, kickback from family. But now, sadly, my father died in 2020. In some ways, that's released me from that fear of judgment. Uh, and I also think now, if not now, when?
That's
And
very good.
that is the other thing. I look at other women in at my age, and I think, wow, they look fantastic. Because I thought, well, perhaps I was too old. I joined a writer's workshop 3 days ago for writing queer fiction, which I want to write. I'm going to write a sort of semi-autobiographical novel about a woman who grows up feeling as I do and squashing it with alcohol. So it's a kind of quit lit clip. Sorry, we won't go there for the moment because this is a family program, but you know where I'm going with that. Um, and I want to, I was going to go to Toulouse tonight. I've looked up a gay bar. It's just for women, a female gay. It's the only female gay bar in Toulouse, and they're doing a drag king workshop, and I would just love to take part in that. I would love to drag up. Um, I saw Kate Smurthwaite's Milo, Penis to Milo, brilliant Milo standards. Quick plug for Kate there. I just think she's fantastically brave going out there, but she's straight as far as I know. Um, we need more drag kings, and I'd like to be a drag king in my 60s. Wouldn't that be a hoot?
That would be amazing. So, what stops you going tonight then, Karen?
Well, practicalities really. My youngest daughter is arriving tomorrow or Sunday, and I have literally 2 minutes before I got on with you finished putting up the kitchen with another workman for her use. That's the other thing, Malcolm, as you know, I've used my dad's money, the inheritance I had from my dad, to renovate the garage downstairs where I live into a flat, a self-contained flat for myself. And I sleep here now. So I sleep in the garage. I'm a queer in the garage, and I've got my own bed, bathroom, and living room, which I'm sitting in now. You can see Bowie on the wall. He's my go-to androgynous. I mean, I don't know whether he was what he'd call himself. He was married to Iman, gorgeous Iman, but he was androgynous, and for me, a queer man. Queer in the sense, I mean that it can mean anything. For me, queer is I am who I am. Um, I don't ascribe to anything, and also I'm a bit of a toddler, in this world. I
Wow.
don't.
So, Karen, I'm gonna stop you because I'm just gonna sort of like take you somewhere with this, and you can say no if you like. But
Oh God, here we
I
go.
heard you say, it's if not now, then when? So
Hmm.
tonight, I heard you come up with a crappy excuse about why you couldn't go to the practicality of why you couldn't go tonight. I would like to invite you to go tonight and then to reflect back to me how it's been and to really allow yourself, worst comes to worst, you don't enjoy it. My sense is you're going to absolutely love it. And I want to invite you to actually honor yourself and go there. Your heart's beating fast. So this is a challenge online and a challenge, for you to actually live your dream, which is there's something there tonight that actually speaks to you in a big way. Don't run away.
Okay, Malcolm.
So,
Yeah.
are you going to go?
I hate it when you challenge me like this. I really hate it because I even looked up hotels in Toulouse because I thought it'd be too late once I'd finished. I'd have to go and stay in a hotel. I'm just curious. I just wanted to go to see. And also, you know, I'm not going to say it will take balls because I don't like them, but um, it would take a lot of courage for me to go alone into a bar. But I'm also fairly sure that somebody would talk to me. I'm fairly sure that some
And you'll
people.
talk to somebody as well. So are you going to go?
Yes, Malcolm.
Hooray, that's fantastic. So that's said before our large audience as well. So that's really great. But I also think there's something about taking those steps that very often we think, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. And then we step out and you go, my God, I've been missing that all this time. And I can see that you're ready to fly. You're ready to give birth to a part of yourself that's been waiting in the wings for a really long time. So I look forward to hearing how it's gone tonight as well. And
I hate having to report back.
never mind, that's what you're going to have to do. So we're coming towards the end of our podcast. It's been really, really interesting talking to you. And I really loved watching your journey where you're freeing yourself from the fetters of what you thought you ought to be to please other people to what you're going to become to be yourself. And I always ask this question at the end, which is, which dragons have you had to slay? What have you had to overcome in order to be who you are?
Oh God, well, dragons, wow. Well, one of the main ones, it obviously, is alcohol. Uh, if I hadn't stopped drinking alcohol, and I know I'm in the early months of that, but even those early months, despite the fact that I'm physically compromised, my head, my mind is much clearer. Uh, Having a clearer mind allows you to then reflect, you know, with hindsight on what and what did went wrong and what. And by the way, it really doesn't help to go down the shame route because the shame route always took me back to
But
drinking.
that's really important because actually what I'm looking at are people educating other people through their experiences. And what you're saying is shame did not you do you any favors.
Not at all. And shame and guilt are the two worst ways to get well. So although AA count days, I don't count days. Um, I know I've been sober. I know that I don't want to have another drink. I know that. I can be around people. In fact, and the other one of my first was just quickly going into a bar. I can manage about 2 hours around drinkers now. Then I have to go.
So you
But
know your own boundaries. You know your boundaries.
so that's the other thing. So it's boundaries. So stopping drinking was the most important thing because without that, there is nothing. The second thing was to be myself. Obviously, authenticity. There is no other game in town really. To be your authentic self, however that shows up, uh, however anyone sees me. If people don't like me, they don't like me. There's nothing I can do about that. Some people will like me and some people won't. As the French say, tant pis, too bad. I will find my tribe, and I know that when I'm around women, I light up. And I'm not talking about women who are gay. It doesn't matter what sexual spectrum you're on, as far as I'm concerned. I feed off ideas and creativity more in a group. I don't dislike men as well. I'd like just to point that out.
No, I
I
know
don't
that. I know
I
that.
don't dislike men individually. On mass, you're a pain in the backside, quite frankly. But you know, I love talk. I love a good discussion about sexuality, or it doesn't have to be about sexuality, about anything off politics, obviously. But yeah, I just want to see people be kind to each other. And I'd like people to be kind to me in my transition. There is a transitional phase that I'm going through at the moment, and I'm going to have to draw on courage, and that needs sobriety. So there's the foundation of that. Uh, I need to be able to draw on courage and go into a female gay bar in Toulouse where there's a lot going on sober is not a small thing for me.
I really hear that, and I really honor the fact that actually you're someone who's ready to strike, who's already striking out, who's already making differences. And actually, what you do is you help create a role model for other people around you to also live their authenticity and be themselves.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank you very much for coming here and being so open and honest with what you're dealing with, Karen. And we'll be in touch again. I'd like you to send me some photos tonight as well.
You're relentless.
I am. I am. Good
But
to see you.
it's been lovely to see you again, Malcolm, and I wish you well and hope that I'm sure I'll see you in Totnes or somewhere, wherever you might be floating at some
Lovely.
point, with or without photos. It depends how the photos go.
Brilliant. Good to see you.
And you, bye.
Okay, bye then.